September 11th, 2001, a day which would change the face of history for all humanity. It was a clear blue Tuesday morning, and the United States, the most powerful superpower in the globally connected world, faced what would become an unimaginable attack in every corner of the globe. Millions of people sat glued to their television screens as for commercial airplanes, manned by weapons in the hands of 19 highly trained terrorists, soared through the sky for a single lethal reason. Osama bin Laden, mastermind of this carefully coordinated atrocity, would soon become the most wanted criminal in history for planning the mass murder of thousands of innocent lives. Their target was none other than the Twin Towers of the iconic World Trade Center in New York City, symbolic structures of American might and its influence in every nook and cranny across the globe. These structures were no ordinary structures. They were landmarks in popular culture, having appeared in nearly 500 films in Hollywood extravaganza, and recognizable to every human being in every other corner of the globe. Those who dared to attack these structures knew for a fact instantly that every other human being in every other country would be glued to their television screens to witness their historic collapse, which would define the history of the next century. In the years leading to 9/11s, nothing could be as different for the geopolitical buildups in every other country around the globe. The Soviet Union would have collapsed in ruins. China would not yet be visible as a challenger in every nook and cranny around the globe. And one nation in every other would be supreme in military might and unrestricted. In every other capital around every nook and cranny across the globe, no country would be ready to take it on, in every other whole nation around every nook and cranny across every other country and every other country and every other capital and every nook and cranny around every other country across every other capital around every globe in every nook and cranny across every country around every other cranny across every capital in every nook and cranny in every other country in every nook across every other nook in every other whole capital around every other country in every other whole nation around every other nook in every other whole country in every nook in every nook in every nook in every other nook in every whole nook around every nook in every other whole nook in every nook in every other whole country in every other whole nook in every whole capital across every other capital in every other nook across every nook across every nook in every whole nook across every nook in every whole nook across every other whole nook around every other whole nook in every nook in every other whole nook in every other whole country in every other whole nook across every nook in every nook across every other nook in every nook in every other nook in every whole nook across every whole nook in every whole nook across every nook in every nook across every other nook in every nook across every nook in every other whole nook across every nook in every other whole nook across every whole nook across every whole nook in every other whole nook across every nook in every other whole capital in every other nook in every other whole nook in every other. The planes headed to New York, descending rapidly to strike the North Tower in a shocked nation watching live on TV. The early reports spoke of this tragedy as an horrific accident, and President George W. Bush, in a visit to a Florida school at the time, thought this to be nothing more than a terrible accident. But within 30 minutes, the second plane was hijacked to aim for the South Tower. Marwan al-Shehi, only 23 years old, expertly controlled the plane with an eerie sense of accuracy as live coverage on world news reported the attack on air. It became apparent to the world at this point, not an accident, but an attack on America. During this madness, the third plane hit the Pentagon, while the fourth, meant for Washington, D.C., failed to reach its target in a heroical act by some passengers, fighting off the hijackers on board. The South Tower crumbled within an hour, taking more than 1,000 lives, followed by the collapse of the North Tower, an additional 1,600 innocent lives claimed. The world was never to be the same again, with almost 3,000 innocent lives lost, families torn apart, and a fear-inducing, anxiety-ridden era now launched on the world stage. But amidst this chaos, Islamophobia was on the rise in the Muslim world when the very same clerical foundations condemned the attack in those pages, terming it un-Islamic in its heinous act on humanity. The government's media and the populace tried to grasp the magnitude of this disaster as the US government very soon zeroed in on al-Qaeda and its terrorist mastermind, Osama bin Laden, to lay down the groundwork for the war on terror. The attack on the Twin Towers in the very epicenter of America was more than an assault on land, an assault on a superpower, and a symbolism that will make the very foundations of world politics shudder in the months to come. In wars, yet to begin in the never-ending saga, in this Black Day-esque definition within world history, in this modern century. As very start, the calm before the storm, since on the morning of September 11th, 2001, the United States woke up to a day that would irreparably change its history. The state of the world at this time was vastly different. The Soviet Union had disbanded, China was not yet considered one of the global powers, and America was the supreme leader on the face of the earth. The Twin Towers of the World Trade Center, known for their embodiment of American superiority, height, wealth, and ambitions, dominated the skyline of New York. Nearly 500 movies had the World Trade Center's Twin Towers feature in them. This made it inseparable from recognition all over the world. On the other hand, 19 men were moving towards their evil goal. They came from Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Lebanon, United Arab Emirates. Among others, they were assigned certain duties in the well-planned attack. They boarded 4 airliners, mixing with innocent spectators, while the whole world remained ignorant. These individuals were not driven by their own self-interest. They were on a planned hit. A day after this event, the peacefully cloudless skies of the United States turned into the settings for terror. This single day made history forever, bringing dramatic effects to politics, security, and millions of lives all around the earth. An ordinary start on September 11th turned into the first scene of the worst terrorist attack ever made in the annals of history. Hijacking the skies just minutes after takeoff, the hijackers carried out their plan with cold calculation. Equipped with box cutters and small knives, they overpowered the flight crew, killing the pilots, and maneuvered Mohammed Atta into the cockpit. The passengers were relocated to the rear of the plane, told that both pilots were dead, and stated that only ATA could guide the plane to a safe landing. But the landing was never the target of this attack. Atta inadvertently connected with New York air traffic control, lulling them into the thought that it was just another ordinary flight. The runways were cleared, oblivious to the catastrophe as it occurred. The plane, meant to fly from Boston to Los Angeles, took a drastic 100-degree turn for New York. Shortly thereafter, it slammed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center, instantly reshaping the New York City skyline and sending shockwaves throughout the world. But before the nation struggled to grasp this visual reality, news agencies initially portrayed it as a horrific accident. Just 30 minutes passed before the second plane, this one piloted by Marwan al-Shehi, slammed into the World Trade Center's South Tower, lived before the nation and the world on television, letting no one forget that the attack was now national. The nation was under assault, attack on the Pentagon meanwhile. While the Twin Towers were being struck by the first 2 planes, the third plane, which was piloted by Hani Hanjar, made its way towards Washington, D.C. Its target was the Pentagon, which was the headquarters of the U.S. Department of Defense. This was one of the most secure buildings in the whole world. It flew low speed and managed to crash into the western side of the Pentagon. This led to severe damage and loss of life. The media was quick to report the news from New York to Washington, D.C. This made people realize the extent to which the attack was planned. The fourth plane was still airborne. It was heading towards the U.S. Capitol building. However, the vice president called for the interception of fighter planes. This meant that they could destroy the plane and lose the lives on board. However, on board the fourth plane, people soon realized that the crashes that had occurred were suicide attacks. This made them realize that they were also destined to die. However, they stood up and thwarted any chance of catastrophe by storming the cockpit. The plane lost balance due to this act. Eventually, it crashed into a field in Pennsylvania. This demonstrated that the attack was not only planned and executed by terrorists, it also revealed the extent to which ordinary people were prepared to sacrifice themselves. Due to the end of the morning, the extent to which the devastation was unprecedented was made apparent. This made everyone realize that the Americans were stunned, along with the leaders across the world. Collapse in chaos, the South Tower of the World Trade Center then collapsed in less than an hour, killing in excess of 1,000 people. And finally, the North Tower gave in, taking another 1,600 lives with it. Many more were left injured, and tragically, some 200 victims chose to jump from their windows on higher levels in order to escape the burning flames. Nevertheless, the number of people who lost their lives in all these attacks stood close to 3,000 in total. In a short while, some confusion began to spread concerning these acts, while some families of the suicide hijackers also claimed they weren't involved in their relatives' deeds. Leaders from all around the world's Muslim communities issued statements disclaiming these terrorist activities, adding that they in no way typified their own Islamic beliefs. However, instead, Islamophobia began in earnest in Western capitals, where some members of their own sects began to harass, fire, or even beat up their own Muslim compatriots. Furthermore, whether or not Islam is indeed a peace-loving faith began to emerge in media debate. Yet, al-Qaeda claimed responsibility for these terrorist attacks, and their so-called mastermind Osama bin Laden was swiftly identified by the US administration as the principal offender. Consequently, their president, George W. Bush, declared the war on terror, demanding Afghanistan turn over Osama bin Laden, who was already hiding in their Taliban-led country. After they refused without any proof, military action was authorized by their government in America, in Duiko or Sa. What had transpired on September 11th has now become nothing short of catastrophic in its aftermath, drastically affecting foreign policy trends and public opinion in respect to worldwide changes in global policies on national and international security, while underlining their own exposure and their vulnerability in relation to all superpowers and global policies on war and terrorism. Furthermore, September 11th has not been just a tragedy, it has become, in reality, the beginning in global history, which has now opened wars, influenced global policies on aftermath and legacy. The aftermath of the 9/11's terror attack revealed the enormous effects that one day had on the whole world. Afghanistan was easily brought under the control of the US government. A new government was established in that country, and Osama bin Laden was eventually killed in 2011 in Pakistan. However, the war did not remain confined to Afghanistan but expanded to various other nations like Iraq, and lasted for 2 decades. Trillions of dollars were exhausted, and millions of people either died or had to leave their homelands. Various regions in the Middle East were left east. Arm manufacturers and other defense-related companies made massive profits. The common man suffered. By the year 2021, 2 decades after the onset of the war on terror, the US reclaimed Afghanistan. The Taliban regained power in that nation unchallenged. Today, the incident of the 9/11's terror attack remains one of the most influential factors that shaped global politics and security. A massive number of Muslims were left unjustly disgraced. The entire world started reconsidering terrorism, international relations, and intelligence. The day of September 11, 2001, remains etched in the memory of the whole world as a reminder of vulnerability, strength, and the massive effects that one day has on the entire planet. Thanks for watching this in-depth story about September 11th, 2001. If you liked this informative and enlightening video, remember to click the *** button, share it with your friends, and share your thoughts in the *** comments *** section below. We look forward to hearing your feedback on this historical day. Also, if you're interested in more in-depth stories on historical events, world events, and hidden historical truths, remember to click the subscribe button on our channel so you can receive notifications on every update. We couldn't do this without your help, so thank you for being part of our community. And until the next video, goodbye.